Welcome to another episode of My Harlow, My Life, and I suppose somebody that I tried to get on for from day one, and I finally managed it. So a big welcome to Donna and to Ian, and it's really great to have you guys on. I must admit, it's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I suppose, like I asked everybody at the beginning of this, and hopefully we might be in a better position by the time this goes out. But what's it been like for you with lockdown?
Well, I was furloughed for best part of a couple of months, so got a lot of decorating done, and got on a lot of weight, and been back at work for about a month now. So it was all right. I don't mind.
I've worked the whole way through, working for Harlow Council. I've been working on the community hub there as well at the Civic Centre, just helping out with, people who are isolated and can't get to the shops and things. But yeah, I've worked the whole way through. I haven't stopped.
So does that mean
it's different?
Does that mean when you go back to the office, Donna, you can't wear your pajamas?
Yeah, my boss did say yesterday, but I've got them on now. The bottom half, can't see them.
I got shorts on.
Oh, do you know what? And I was going to as well, but I put my tracksuit bottoms on just in case. I was never sure what the camera could see. But I mean, Harlow-wise, has it been tough? Because I would say, Donna, this sort of time of year, this would probably be getting to be one of your, busiest times of the year, or coming up to one of your sort of busiest times of the year. So I mean, has it felt a little bit different for you since, we've stopped back in? When was it? March? Was it we stopped? And has that felt a little bit?
Yeah. I was saying to Ian yesterday, funny enough, it would have probably been our first friendly today. But obviously, things have happened and we haven't been able to do it. But normally sort of this time of year, it's busy, and at the moment it's pretty quiet out there. I'm still in contact with the club and talking to them about, things coming up, when we can start training again. But very quiet at the moment.
I mean, have you... Nice to have the wife back with you, is it? So you haven't had to share her?
Yeah, get to spend evenings with her and things, So
yeah,
I forgot how nice she was.
But I mean, Harlow, for you two guys. I mean, who was first at Harlow? I mean, who's got the sort of the longest sort of memories at Harlow? Who arrived first, or did you arrive both together?
That would be me, because I went when I was, I think my first game I was about 8 or 9. I went to the opening of the floodlights originally and the new main stand at the old sports centre. But I've been very intermittent since then. Obviously, we both went to the cup games, didn't we, in 1980?
Yeah.
Went to most of those and that. So we've both supported the club for a long time, but with long breaks as well.
So can you remember your first game, Ian?
I think it was Harlow against a West Ham 11, about 69, 70, something like that. A long time ago.
You don't look that old, sir.
I was about 9.
I was waiting for you to say about 1980 something then. So who can you remember? Was that in that West Ham side? Was there any big names in there, or did they just come like they do nowadays with like the reserves and the kids?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, we didn't have much television and stuff those days. It's hard to know who was there and who wasn't. You didn't know the names then, really, either. A lot of them.
Donna,
I mean, your first game, can you remember yours?
No, I can't. I know it was in '79. I moved to England from Wales in 1979. And Craig Messenger lived opposite me.
Right, okay, yeah, no, Craig.
And he was sort of roughly the same age as me. Got talking to him, became friends with him. And he said, one day, old fancy come and watch Harlow. And that was it, really. We went to watch quite a few of the league games. We used to go up to Tottenham quite a lot and watch Spurs. But if they were away, we always used to go to Harlow. But we went to all, the cup games and everything, and went to Watford on the coach and things like that, but can't really remember my first game, to be honest.
So, I mean, what with that? I mean, what's the sort of the first memories you guys have actually got of a game that sticks in your mind?
Sorry, we didn't quite catch that.
So that's what I'm saying. You know, what was the first sort of games that you can remember that actually stuck in your mind?
It's got to be the FA Cup run, hasn't it? I think, really.
Yeah. Standing on the mud bank and
singing "We Are the Owls," hoot 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 hoot.
And, with a mud bank, Harlow Town, falling down the mud bank when we scored, and coming home absolutely filthy because everybody, when you score, of course, everybody pushes forward.
Yeah.
And you just used to go flying. Brilliant.
So what was
we didn't know each other then either.
No.
So what was that? What was that like though? That cup run. I mean, what was that? You heard it from other people, but I mean, what was the cup run like? I mean, getting those sort of big names as well at the end of it as well. But I mean, what was the actual cup run itself like?
It was amazing, to be honest. Especially a game at Watford. I mean, half of Harlow was there. I believe they had like a record crowd, record attendance, and after we went 4-1 down and sort of like come back to 4-3 and nearly grabbed an equaliser, it was just amazing. And I seem to remember, which no one else seems to, that we got a guard of honour off the pitch from the Watford players. They clapped us off the pitch, but no one else seems to remember that, so maybe I dreamt it. I don't know.
Do you remember that, Donna? Do you remember that, Donna?
I don't remember the guard of honour, no, but I can remember going up, getting up there quite early because we got the coach from the bus station, and there was just coaches lined up. It was just absolutely amazing, and the journey up there, and it was just such a fantastic day. Even though we lost, obviously, but great day. And my form teacher at the time was Paul Kitson.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah. So that was good, and I actually spoke to him a few months ago on the phone when your Harlow were trying to get the old players together.
Right.
But I don't think they aired the interview, did they?
No.
I mean, was that one of those sort of games? And I know people said that some of the others that I spoke to, I can't think who it was who spoke to. One person even said they even had to sneak off school early. I think it might have been Ian or somebody said they tried to sneak off school early and managed to get on the coach again. But is that the biggest amount of fans you've ever seen for a Harlow game, especially away?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. By far.
Yeah. Well, in our day anyway, wasn't it? Then and sort of now, since we've been back following them. But in those days, yeah, definitely.
So when
away.
Go on, mate.
So I think there was about 10,000 Harlow fans there. Wow. I mean, I went there in the back of a van, and there was about 10 of us in the back of this van, all squashed in. No windows or anything, but we didn't care.
So I mean, with that though, I mean, someone which I didn't know until I can't even remember who spoke about it. It might have been Scott that spoke about it. That the change of name from Owls to Hawks. I mean, as Harlow fans, I mean, how did that go down on with the rest of the Harlow fans? That all of a sudden we've changed from being the Owls to the Hawks.
Well, I think it was a time that neither of us were actually going to Harlow then. So we sort of like, when we came back, we realised we changed from the Owls to the Hawks. So we didn't really see the change, to be honest.
So I
like the Owls. It'll always be the Owls. Sorry, but it must be the Owls.
Literally, when you was actually at the sports centre, I mean, how many of the names that are still around now were there then?
I didn't really know many people then. Like I said, I used to go with Craig, but he doesn't come anymore. Vince Morris used to go with, but I didn't really know many people. It was all sort of like my little group from school, really, rather than people like Scott. But no, not many people really that we knew then.
No, same here.
So when you left there, did you sort of go after the cup run, and then when was it you actually came back? Was it when they moved to Barrows Farm, or did you actually come back at some stage while they were still at the sport?
I moved back to Harlow 6 years ago. I think we was down the pub one night down the Hare, and Ross and Ollie came in, and I think Ollie came in after Ross, and he'd been at the club and got the new shirts, the new Harlow shirts. And we was just talking, and I said to him I think it was just maybe one Saturday, I said, "Oh, should we just go and watch Harlow?" Or maybe it was you said to me, I'm not quite sure. So we did, and just sort of, those were in the days when there was like, it was only 5-6 years ago, but there was, Scott and Legsy and all that lot, and the atmosphere was just buzzing. and we just loved it, and it sort of got into us, really, got into my heart, and that was it.
Was that grass or 3G when you came back?
That was 3G when we came back. Yeah.
Do you missed the horrific season on the grass then?
We did, yeah.
So can you remember what your first game was back when you came back? 3G, would that have been the Whittam season you came back then?
No, I think was it season after?
It was a season when we won the playoff final. So, and I think our first home game we
was looking, weren't we? I think it was
Dereham. We think we beat Dereham 2-0. We think it was our first game, not long before the Braintree FA Cup game, which was also a good day out. But since then, we haven't barely missed a game, have we, between us?
I think I've missed about two league games in about 4 years.
Yeah.
Home and away.
I mean, when you go away, I mean, there's got to be some funny stories in the car on the way down, isn't there? I mean, who normally comes with you when you go?
Well, we used to have Steve and Ross, but Ross now goes with Phil and Paul and that, because they like to get to the pub, and of course we've got to leave early, so we still go to the pub before the game. But there's normally only Steve, isn't there? And if somebody else wants a lift, then they jump in with us. But we do the eye quiz. we're intelligent. We do the independent quiz.
This is true. On the motorway on the way there.
Every single away game, we do the eye quiz. Steve always brings the paper and he sits in the back. As soon as we hit a motorway or do a carriageway, we're doing the quiz. And it's really hard.
So now when we used to go on the away games, we really super weird. They used to, somebody used to come up with, you used to have to start with the letter A and find a registration plate that started with the letter A, and then you work through the alphabet, and then you come. It was just a nightmare. But it was just weird stuff that you do in the car on the way to games. But there's got to be some sort of funny stories that must happen in that car on the way up. I mean, I've seen some of the pictures you put out as well, and it looks like it's a real ball of fun as you're on the way up.
Well, there was one day I can't remember where we was going now, but we stopped at Clackett Lane Services on the M25. We went and got a coffee and a quick break and that, and when we got back to the car, it wouldn't start, would it?
No.
So I had to get the AA out.
And Spencer Knight came and picked me up, didn't he?
Yeah, I took you to the game, and we sort of got there a bit later, but we didn't miss the game. We saw the whole game, just missed the pub.
So I phoned, because of course I got to get there early, and I phoned Chapper up. I said, we've broken down. Have you gone past Clackett Lane yet? He said, oh shit. He said, I've just gone past it. So he said, hold on, phone Spencer. So Spencer came and got me. So I just left Ian at the services, hoping that he could get the car started.
Remember what game that was?
Oh, I don't know. I can't remember.
No, I can't.
No.
But I mean, have you? So when you started going, I mean, was that the first time you went back there? Was that the end of the Needham Market season, or was that actually right at the beginning of the promotion season? Because wasn't
near the beginning of the promotion season? Yeah,
September.
Yeah, September, October of that year. I mean, we saw every game of the 12-match winning run, didn't we?
Yeah. That was great, wasn't it?
Yeah, some really good goals and that.
Yeah.
So how did, I mean, with that, and because every time I actually hear, see, I've been eyes open this morning because, talking to you, because whenever I actually hear stories and names get mentioned about who's sort of like the cult fans, etc., Ian's name always comes up in amongst that. So I'm quite surprised that you've only come back in those last few years. I thought you'd been sort of somebody that had been at the club, sort of like Ray Dyer-ish, do you know what I mean? That has been there for quite a long period of time.
No, afraid not.
We're relatively new.
Yeah.
To a lot of other people.
But then we are sort of quite heavily involved.
Yeah.
So
Ian, tell people, everybody, people know Donna's the secretary of the club now. I mean, yourself, tell people what you do for the club and for yourself.
Well, I usually get down there early, and I sweep out the shop, clean it all out, get all the stuff ready, open the shop up. Do the golden goal, sell the programs, and we'll have a bit of fundraisings at times and things like that we do, but not much really compared to a lot of people, but it's something.
So I mean, in that season then that you first came back, I mean, was there some games in there that were sort of highlight games for you?
I liked the Worthing 6-2 win with that stunning goal by Lane, which has already been mentioned here before. And you've got some favourites, haven't you? What?
Well, over the last few years.
Well, I mean that season it was leading up to promotion in the playoffs. I mean, was there games in that season that you looked at and went, something happened in the games that you'd always remember?
I can't really even remember the games running up to it. Really, I remember. I don't know. It was that season. It's the one with Derham. Was it Derham with the Lino?
Oh, yeah.
That season.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah. That was quite funny because I think did the ref or something get a knock on the head. So the assistant referee stepped in to become the referee. Then they put a call out for the for a assistant referee to come in. Well, this guy came in. I think he was like an old farmer or something. He looked like he just got off his tractor.
He was about 80.
80, with his jogging bottoms on. Obviously, the elastic was going. Well, every time he ran, he had to pull his jogging bottoms up. And of course, we had Reedy up front then. So they were like kicking a bit of the long ball up to him as normal. And this lino just couldn't keep up with him. I mean, Reedy could have been offside a million times that day. He was going, "Come on, Reedy, we'll never catch up with you." Because he had to stop and pull his trousers up.
That's true. Yeah.
And that was just so funny.
I remember that sort of thing happening to me in a pre-season game, and I don't know what season it was. And there was a call out, and I was reffing at the time, only kids football, and the referee, the lino didn't turn up. Luckily enough, it was actually a pre-season friendly, and the lino didn't turn up. So of course I'm keeping quiet, and I'm sort of up there with the microphone in my hand, just sort of keeping in the corner and keeping out of the way, and all the rest, thinking, leave this off. And it must have been, I don't know, I can't even think he was at the back at the time. It might be something like Danny Brown or somebody was playing, and so it must have been Whittemore before, with Bert in goal and all the rest of it. And all of a sudden Tom walks up behind me and goes, "Dave, you referee, don't you?" I went, yeah. He went, "Go on, mate, get down there for me." I said, "I need you to run the line." So I'm running down on the stand side, and of course you're trying to catch up with these sort of like fully grown blokes when you're used to easy keeping up with this sort of 10-year-old kids. And you got Danny Brown giving me grief from the sideline, Bert telling him off because he says, "Leave him alone. He's only doing it as a favour." And all the crowd getting on me back as I'm running up and down the back of the line. But it was just one of those days. It was terrifying, but very much an enjoyable refereeing experience. But with that game, didn't I see that in the second half or something, there was a lot of complaints with Deerham possibly being offside and stuff like this as well. When I'm sure I saw that on the sort of the Harlow feeds going through, that that they felt that he was, how should we say, being a little bit biased. Was that the game?
Mm.
Yeah, we think he was. Yeah, it was still funny though. I think we drew that game. Did we draw it?
I think, didn't they end our run? Was it them?
No.
No.
I don't know.
No. Oh no, it was Soham, I think. Ended our run that. Yeah. No, I can't remember now.
In that first season, did you have players in that season that you guys sort of not necessarily fell in love with, but football-wise fell in love with, that was in that side in that first year? And I'm thinking of people like Mr. Muscle Man in Junior Dadson, and people like Joe. All these type of people. Was there people out there that you picked out in that first season that you really enjoyed watching?
I think falling in love was correct in Donna's case with Mario. So.
In fact, I should have realised that, shouldn't I? Because when I put out Harlow 11, she gave me grief because I didn't put Mario in it. Well, that's only because I couldn't name to put in it.
Great player though. I think he had everything. He could tackle, he could pass, he could score goals. Very committed and really nice guy as well. He's always come out after games and chat to the fans and whatever. Always had time for everyone. Really nice guy.
We went to the Bostic, the AGM, and they have the dinner and dance, and he was there. It was the first year he was at Enfield.
Yeah.
And he came over and sat with us for ages, didn't he? Probably about an hour. He sat with us, had a drink and a chat, and such a nice guy and a great footballer.
Did you enjoy those nights out?
Yeah, really do. Not so much. I don't particularly like the Brighton one Much preferred the
one at
Wembley, Hilton.
I finally found somebody else that likes them as much as me then, because I used to absolutely love them. It was
We struggled. We struggled to get somebody to go.
the highlight of the whole season. Even up to when I was doing, as you know, I do the Monday night show, and I was trying to put feelers out. Well, if no one's got any spare tickets, I'll go. You know, it's because it used to be good, because I used to go, and I used to go to the AGM with Ray. So I used to go in there with Ray and do the AGM. Do you know what I mean? When that used to be on, I think on the Saturday night, or when I saw on the Sunday morning. So we'd stay overnight, and I think the boss would pay for us for a hotel overnight, and then you'd stay for overnight. Oh, there you go. See, well, but then that was the old days. But yeah, and then you used to come back in and for the do. And I remember one year, a bit like what you said to me, I think as well. I think there was one year when I went and I was there all on my own. There was us and Romford on one table, and there were just three of us on one table. It was just unreal. But no one likes them.
Well, last year there was I think there ended up just me and you, wasn't there? We had, it was on our table, was it Brighton and Sea?
Yes.
And Hornchurch.
Yes.
Of course, Hornchurch, they're a bit older than us. So they had their meal and a couple of drinks, and when the music started, they went. And
they left the wine, though.
They left the wine, yeah. And the region, I just think, wanted to just go off and party somewhere else. So it was just basically me and Ian on the table with all these bottles of wine. So
but that season, that season, we get to the last game of the season away to Sudbury, and we go there and having to watch them lift the trophy. I'm assuming you were both there for that game. I mean, that was what was that like watching them?
That was the year before we came back.
No, we was on holiday.
Oh yeah,
I think we was on holiday. Right, one. We actually missed that.
So going into that play in the semi-final, I mean, what was that like from a supporter's point of view?
A bit nervy, wasn't it? But I think we were confident, and obviously done all right in the end. But,
enjoyed the.
Yeah. The actual playoff final was an amazing day. We started off
at 10 o'clock in Wetherspoons
with Ray Dyer and a lot of the other fans.
Drinking cider at 10 o'clock in the morning. And those, I mean, I wasn't an official then, so we got to the club quite early. But I had bags and bags of ticker tape that I'd cut up, and it was still there the next season. It just got all the crevices and everything. But it was so funny because I wasn't an official. We won, and then that night they had the presentation night straight after.
Yeah.
And I was so drunk, and all I wanted was a photo with Danny. I didn't even really know him, so I was standing by the tunnel shouting, "Danny, Danny!" And he must have thought, "Oh my God." I just want a photo, darling.
Did you get it though?
So, yeah, no, it's a great night. I think we drank the whole club out of alcohol.
We had to keep changing drinks because they ran out of what we was drinking, and we just ran out of drinking.
Yeah.
But
great day, absolutely great day.
Did you get your photo though? Did you get your photo?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
So, talk to us about how it all came about then. How did it all come about with yourself, becoming match day secretary? Where did that sort of come from? Did it come out of the blue for you, or did you know it was coming? Or
Well, I think somebody put on the fan site that they were, they have these ideas sometimes, and somebody put, "Oh, we should have this going on." And I think Ian Bowen came on and said something like, "That's not going to happen. We can't even get a match secretary at the moment." So I thought, I sat there thinking, well, I'm pretty good at admin. So I messaged Ian. I said, well, what does it involve? And he said, well, email Ray Dyer. So I emailed Ray, and Ray said, oh, basically doing team sheets. And I went, oh, I can do that. And then scan them off. That was it. No. I think he'd done me up there, he did.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I was match day secretary as well, so it was a nightmare with the amount of stuff. And I always remember with it, and you probably were better at it than me, but the only forms I could not get my head round was the FA Cup and the FA Trophy forms. I just couldn't get my head round all the all the filling in of the money and how you set it and all the rest of it. And I remember we were playing. I can't even remember. We were playing at one stage, and I filled all the forms in. And I always used to send them to Ray, and then make sure Ray made sure they were perfectly okay before sending them off. So Ray said, "No." He said, "No." So I think you've missed out something. So he had a look at it, done it, came back. And when we sent them off, it was still wrong, and they were still complaining they didn't get half their money. So no idea what went wrong with that one. But do you find them difficult or not, or is it just me?
No, I've never had a problem.
Yeah,
never had a problem with that really. No. I mean, for me, it's a little bit because obviously Ray living in Cumbria, it was always going to be a little bit difficult, but we did really, really work well together.
Yeah.
And Ray is somebody who goes to bed with the FA Handbook of Rules and Regulations. But I mean, he's always said to me, "I'm always here at the end of the phone," which he is.
Yeah, no.
And I mean, quite a few times he said, "Oh, I think you're basically doing everything. I'm going to sort of stand down," and I've lost count of how many times I was like, "No, you can't leave me. You've got to stay. We work well together, it's working." But I knew it was going to happen. I knew Ray was going to sort of step back. But I'm so glad that, he's now, was he one of the presidents? Yeah. Mm. Yeah, so I'm glad he's still got involvement in the club. And he loves Harlow through and through.
Well, there you go. So I didn't know that he'd been made a president of the club. I didn't know that. So, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's, what do they call it?
The vice president? Isn't he? No, I don't know.
I know, it is a title, but I can't remember what it is.
Honorary president.
Honorary president, something like that, yeah.
But he's as you just spoke about him, I mean, he's one of the just pure legends of the club, isn't he?
Yeah.
But I mean, with that then, so when did you first get the sort of the whiff with him to say that this time, Donna, I'm definitely giving it up? Did you what was that sort of? I assume it was a phone call that he phoned you and said to you that I'm definitely giving it up. This, you've got it from now. So I mean, what was that phone call like?
I don't think it really came in on a phone call. I don't even really know how it happened, but we've always been able to try and persuade him to stay. But this time there was just something different, and I knew it was what he wanted, if you know what I mean. Not he wanted, but I knew this time he meant it.
Well, if you remember, he turned up at Bedfont Sports, and I sort of had a bit of a chat with him, and you could tell then that he was going to give it up.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think he just, because of his job, early hours, long hours, and obviously when you're in the middle of the season, you're getting emails flying in, which he had to sort out, and it was probably a little bit too much where I'm quite sort of flexible, and I can sort of do them quite easily where I am, living in Harlow. So, yeah, but sad because we did work really well together.
So I mean,
and if he wanted to come back, I'd step down.
So with that, I mean, we've been secretary. What was when you've had a phone call from Danny or from Tom or from Tim or whoever saying that I need you down here tonight, we're signing a new player? I mean, was you like me, sort of all the way there, sort of super excitement just to wonder who it might be, and then when you actually get there, and was there one player that we signed in your time as matchday secretary and now secretary that you've looked at it and gone, been really excited that we're signing them?
Yeah. Didn't quite work out though. David Mooney.
Right.
I was Orient supporter for quite a few years. So when they said, "Oh, we're getting David Mooney out on loan," well, not on loan, but he's coming in, I was like, "Oh my God," even though it was right at the end of the season. And that was the cut-off day. You had to get him in by 5. Sorry, I'm really croaky today. And we got him in at 4:59. And I was shaking because we was that close to losing him. And then, of course, he played twice. So I thought, oh, God, went through all that stress. He played twice and went on holiday.
That was the end of that. But I mean,
Yeah.
what was the feeling in this season when you got maybe a call from Mark to say we're signing Alex back?
Well, we needed a striker, and you can't really get a better one than Alex.
No.
But he needs a service as well, and I don't think the service was there for him.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I've got a lot of time for Alex. He's done a lot for the club, and nice guy. Yeah.
So I mean, what's that like being? I suppose being in that sort of role. I mean, what is that like being in sort of a sort of an, you could almost say an all-male sort of sport type thing, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? In that from management to owners, etc., etc. There's not very many owners that are, or chairwomen around or anything like that, and maybe not that many lady secretaries, around. So, what was that? What's that like? Or what was it like when you for your first game when you've got to go down to the dressing room? And was you a bit sort of nervous around Danny? Because I think as Tom said in the previous chat with him, he's very much he's got an aura about him, hasn't he, Danny? He's not necessarily, you look at him and you think, oh, Shroof. Do you know what I mean? When you go up to him, he's not, until you get to know him, you get past that sort of out of skin,
Yeah.
say. Do you know what I mean? So what was that actually like?
Oh, I was terrified of him. Seriously, I was like, oh my God, I've got to go and see Danny. But at the end of it, we're quite good friends now. He texts me now and then still. But yeah, I mean, I think with my job now in the football club, I do what's best for the club. And if he's doing something that I don't, or any manager, that I think, no, then I will tell him. Whereas I didn't really when I first came there.
Yeah, we like telling Danny often. We do.
Yeah.
I mean, Ian, what was your thoughts when Donna said to you that she's taking over as match day secretary and then she's taking over as secretary?
I think when she became match day secretary, I actually suggested that she went for it. So, she said it's an advert come up or something. I said, why don't you go for that? You can do that easy. And she went for it and obviously got it. And I know she's been doing most of the secretary's job for quite a while, to be honest. A lot of the work you've taken off of Ray, haven't you? And been doing that, so it's not really any different, to be honest.
So we're going into that then. So I mean, we're talking with Danny. I mean, what was the most enjoyable time of Danny's reign for you? I mean, was there times in? Only a question for both of you. I mean, what was from the time when you was at the club before being secretary as well, Donna, and that till when he left? I mean, what was the most exciting time for you? In that period of time, knowing Danny.
Difficult one.
Yeah.
I don't quite know how to answer it. I don't know about sort of enjoyable times or whatever, but I mean, he's so disciplined with his players and things, and a great manager. But I mean, we've had fun with him, haven't we?
Yeah,
A laugh and a joke, and I think people do quite take him wrong sometimes because when that football match starts, he's there but he's such a nice man. I mean, he texts, when he was manager there, he'd text me, I'd say, oh, so-and-so, the registration gone through. He'd text me and say, you're a star, we're so lucky to have you, and, really great encouragement. And he's just a nice guy.
Yeah. So, I mean, what was it like then when how did you find out that he'd actually left? I mean, when where did that news come to you? Did he call you personally, or did you just find out through other means?
Yeah, he phoned me. He just said, before it gets out, I just want to let you know, that I've gone. I think I cried. I never cry. But he was saying really nice stuff to me.
Yeah.
Thank you for all your help. I couldn't have done it without you. And I thought, oh. But, I mean, I don't know. There was just something like the last sort of few games that, I don't know, you could sort of sense something was going on. Couldn't quite work it out. But it wasn't a huge shock for me. But, it's obviously something he had to do. But, watching him the other night with you, you can just feel that passion that he still has for the club.
Yeah, yeah.
And great manager.
Was you shocked, Ian?
I was quite surprised at the timing of it, yeah, to be honest. But I did think it was going to happen. But it wasn't really for on-field reasons. It was more for off-field reasons. I think it just needed the break, really, to be honest. But I thought when we played Kingstonian at Corinthian Casuals Ground and lost 7-0, he just looked, he sort of like sit down, flopped on the bench, and I just thought he's leaving. He's going to hand in his resignation, but he never did.
But I mean, from the outside in at that point, I saw the news come over, and it was like, because people spoke to me and said, they saw the results and on the show, and they were saying different bits, and I said, look, Chapo's not going to go anywhere. He's there. He's there for the long journey. Do you know what I mean? Whether we've got a good budget, bad budget, whatever, he'll be there for the long journey. And then, sort of 2 or 3 weeks later, I'm getting you get the notification on my phone. Danny Chapman's left Harlow. I was in absolute shock. I mean, I just could not believe that he'd gone at that time. It was. I think it sent shockwaves through quite a lot of people. I think.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
So Danny goes, and then he's replaced by Mark for the rest of the season. A lot of difference between the two managers.
I'm sorry, you just broke up then a bit.
I was saying Danny left, and then Mark came in. What was the difference between the two managers?
I'll let you answer
that. It's very different, to be honest. They've both got real sort of different ideas, even though they work together. I don't know, really. I think Danny was more disciplined, whereas Mark is sort of more probably your mate, if you know what I mean, with the players and things. But, whatever happens, like I've always said, whoever comes in as manager, I'll be 100% loyal to them, and it wouldn't change how I work with anybody. So even though they are both different, I'm still doing the same job as I've always done.
Was it a weird feeling though, walking in and going to get the team sheet, and all of a sudden I don't know if you knock on the door or they come out to you, whatever, but was that a weird feeling, and all of a sudden it's not Danny anymore, it's somebody else? Because that must have been a bit weird after all that time working with Danny, and then all of a sudden somebody else is coming out giving you a team sheet.
Yeah, I think I found Danny was more like a private manager. I would just go in, get the team sheet, and go off and do my stuff. Well, a lot of the time I'd come in with Mark, and I'd be in the office with them quite a lot. So they do both work different because they're different people. But I mean, Mark's always been there. Well, not always been there, but he's been there for a couple of years with Danny. So seeing him, it wasn't really. If it was somebody completely different, a stranger I didn't know, then maybe it would be different. But it wasn't sort of much of a change really with Mark.
So first year, we get relegated from from that top division, and also as well in that season we start losing players, the likes, and from the end of the season before and that season we're losing people like David, we're losing Alex, we're losing Junior, we're losing Jared. What was that? What was that sort of period of time like for you? Because I know somebody else said you're so used to those players turning up there on a Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock, or in Fabian and Junior's case at about 2. But it's that sort of thing where they turn up, and you're used to those players, and all of a sudden now you've lost sort of almost all your family. Was that a tough time as well?
Yeah. Obviously, I work quite a lot with the players. I'm always there when they sign. You do get quite close to them. Some of them try not to, but you do. And their parents. I mean, there's a lot of parents that we been friendly with that have gone, so we miss the mum and dads as well. But It's been difficult the last couple of years because there's so many changes. We haven't got a settled team. I'd love to see a settled team, or even a team that one team for the whole season.
Yeah.
But you can't really get a good relationship with many players who are just coming in and gone in a month or gone in a couple of months. I mean, there's people, real characters from this season just gone that I still get on with and still talk to now and then, like Ollie Ganandi, him and his mum talk to.
Samson was character.
Samson, I love Samson. great guy. So we still talk to them, but it's not the same as when we had Alex, Jerry, Junior, Mario,
Husey.
Craig, Husey, all of them. I mean, David's mum and David's mum, came to our wedding for the whole day, and then Katie and David and their partners came in the evening. So you do build up a relationship with them, and Denise has become a really good friend of mine.
She's a lovely lady.
But lovely family, absolute gems. But you just can't get that relationship going when they're just coming in for a month or 2 months or alone.
So what's it like when you guys jump in the car, go to away games last season, and instead of almost turning left on the M25, you're turning right now on the M25 and going the opposite way? I mean, what's the difference between What's the difference between the North League view grounds, away grounds, and South Central away grounds? Because you hear people saying about Tilbury all the time, but people tell me that the South Central away grounds, or majority of them, are, shall we say, not as good as the grounds in the North. Would that be fair?
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like Sunday pub leagues on the grounds. Like Chalfont, nice club, but wow, such a dump. And
was that the one with the playroom nursery?
Yeah,
they had something like nursery in the bar. They obviously used it during the week for children, and then open it up as a clubhouse on the Saturday. But I went in the toilets, and there was like a training toilet seat. And then it had a sign saying, "Please do not jump in the toilet," or something. It's like, well, I wasn't planning to, but...
Well, the bar had all the ABC signs and everything in there, didn't it?
Yeah, it was quite...
And their beer was like 2 cans of Guinness in a cool box or something. That was about it. It didn't have sort of proper taps or anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, you can't really knock these clubs because you don't know what their circumstances are. Obviously, they get money for letting it out as a nursery. Yeah. So... they can't go around taking hundreds of posters down every Saturday and putting them back up again.
But perhaps they heard about your drinking session at the promotion party, but they put on their "Don't jump in the toilet."
Probably.
But I mean, those grounds. I mean, Bracknell, from what I've heard, is not a bad ground. Is it? Bracknell's a good ground to go to.
Yeah, quite nice. Yeah.
What was that one we had the evening game at?
Bedfont Sports. That's quite nice.
Really like Bedfont. Really good.
And was she?
Really nice ground.
I suppose the other ground that I'd be interested to hear what your thoughts are as an away ground, because we used to play them in the North, we now play them in the South Central, but there's a heck of a lot of difference on their playing surface from when we used to play them in the North to when we played them in the South Central. What was your thoughts when you went down to Waltham Abbey? Because that pitch now is. I've seen it last season a few times. I sit on the way to work every morning. The pitch looks like a 3G now compared to before, where it looked like beach.
I did see a picture of it the other day, I think, and it did look great. But obviously, all the pitches look great at the moment because they haven't been played on. So.
But they spent a lot of money on their pitch, didn't they, with the drainage and whatever.
They've got
it's much better than it used to be.
They've even got underground sprinklers now as well, like Premier League, that pop up and spray. Yeah. I saw that the other day as well. But I mean, have you got a favourite ground now in the South Central that you're looking forward to going back to? Of course, if we're still in the South Central next year.
Some that we're not looking forward to going back to, like Ashford, for example.
Yeah. Problems of Ashford.
I can't think. I can only remember the pub before the ground, really.
Which one of those are you looking forward to going back to?
I think because we've only been to most of these clubs once.
Yeah.
Sort of like the season just gone. We haven't really. None of them have been really memorable.
Yeah.
No.
But I remember sort of clubs sort of from the Premier and stuff more than I remember last season.
So, I mean, I suppose the other question that someone came up with the other day on my Monday night show, they said that, you know, if Romford, you know, get their ground share agreed, and from what Steve was saying, it's looking like it's going to be barking. Well, that would then realistically put them in the South Central, which would then make the South Central one too many. So, I mean, I'm not great at geography, but you know, I'm trying to work it out. But it'd be very interesting to see who would be the closest that would move from South Central back into the north. Because I mean, for me, looking at it, it would look at possibly us, Ware, Waltham Abbey, teams around that sort of area that might sort of move across. Would you rather be in the South Central next year, or would you rather be in the actual north?
That's quite difficult, I think, because I think the North has got a better standard of football, but they've also got a better standard of facilities.
Yeah.
Whereas going into the South Central, you've got a better chance of being promoted from it, but the grounds aren't as great as the ones in the North. So it's a real difficult one.
Yeah.
I think I could stay in the South Central for a season, see if we can get up or do something.
I think the thing with the South would be if we stayed in the South Central and Romford come over, all of a sudden you've got Millionaires Row at Romford all of a sudden, you know, in that league. You've also got, which I know have been signing players from the South, Vanarama South and teams like that. So all of a sudden you've got two in there that are spending big. You've got Ware in there, two in Mitcham in there. I mean, would you expect a club like Harlow with a big name like Harlow should realistically be in the playoffs at least next year?
Depends on the budget, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it depends who comes in. You know, at the moment it's all up in the air. We don't know I don't know what the budget is, even though I think people do think I know a lot more than I do, but I don't. If that makes sense. I don't. You know, Mark only came in as interim manager last year or last season, so I don't know whether. I mean, as far as I know, he's still here because I spoke to him last week.
Yeah.
But you know, you don't know.
No.
So just got we can afford and things.
Does that as supporters? I mean, away from you being the secretary, Donna, as supporters, does it concern you a little bit when you see all these other teams announcing players and all the rest of it? I know they can't sign the contracts. Well, I think the contracts they can now, can't they, from the 1st of July? But does that sort of those sort of things now sort of concern you a little bit when you think we haven't announced anybody yet?
Well,
we always do seem to be a bit slow to do anything.
We're always on the late
always
side.
Last.
But when you see all these other clubs signing, you think, oh, you know, I was sitting there waiting for a phone call, but we'll be all right. We always do it, you know. We always get by, as it were.
So, since you've been secretary, or since you've been back with Harlow, and the same with Ian, what's been your favourite ground that you've been to, and what's been the worst ground you've been to? I
like Lowestoft.
I do too, because of the pub there, which we found.
Really like Lowestoft.
It's the only,
not just to the pub.
The only ground that Donna actually has to drive home from, because there's a pub there called the Stanford Arms, which does so many real ales, and I have to try them all, and Donna has to drive home. So.
Yeah. But I like Lowestoft because of the people. I think the characters at Lowestoft are just, you know, you've got the Trawler Girls. You've got, you know, there's another lady who hangs around the club.
Strange lady.
Gave me a load of abuse one day, running the changing rooms at Harlow and where we were, and started shouting Harlow up.
Yeah.
And then she came out. She said, "You support Harlow?" I went, "Yeah." She went, "Well, off then."
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah.
even that, it was so funny. And you got the lovely, well, I don't know if he's still there now, but Mr. Batchelor, who used to run this saddlery shop in Epping. Oh, lovely man, lovely board, lovely people. I just really enjoy it there.
He does actually appear at Harlow now and again, doesn't
Yeah,
he?
yeah, it's at Harlow a few months ago.
Yeah.
But we've had some great times at Lowestoft.
What's your
worst?
Yeah.
Do you know? I know there were some dire ones really this season that really needed a lot of work, I think. But I really don't like Dawkins' new ground.
No, it's soulless.
Really don't like it at all.
I preferred the old ground.
Yeah, the old ground.
Wooden shed.
It was lovely. It's just too sterile for me. And there's all these rules and regulations what you can and can't do. You can't, the boys had to go around the corner and away from the pitch to smoke. You have to drink away from the pitch as well. You couldn't drink, and for me that's what non-league football was about. Bring your dog and whatever, But I just didn't like it at all. Felt really, as if I should have stood there in a suit and tie or something. It wasn't really for me. Not my cup of tea.
I think one of the ones that I went to, sort of the quaintest one I ever went to was Mersham, because Mersham's one of those ones that sort of you wouldn't even know it was there, almost tucked down an alley somewhere, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's like a really weird place, and then the boys have to train, warm up off the pitch over the hedge. Well, they used to. I don't know if they still do. But the good point about that was one of their directors is a butcher, and the food in the actual in the chairman's part was fantastic, because he was actually a butcher, so he had all the sausage rolls, all homemade sausage rolls, and all that sort of stuff in there. So that was always a good one. Have you been to the Mersham one? I assume you have.
Yeah, a few times. Yeah,
I've been to Mersham. Yeah. Another one was. I know quite a few people have said it, but Sudbury's nice as well, isn't it? Really like Sudbury. And they've got their brewery guy, haven't they?
Yeah.
So he likes it. Ian just likes wherever sells the best beer.
Yeah, but I can't have much because I usually drive.
But I do offer to drive him. But he never says.
So when you've been to these other grounds, I mean, what through the year, especially as secretary, because you'll get more chances, I would assume, to see them. But is there another manager from another side that you've really got a soft touch for?
Ooh. I think Justin Gardner's a character. You've got to say that. And Craig Edwards, another one. I don't know really. I don't take much notice of him, to be honest.
But you've just named two absolute characters. I mean, Justin's one of those that, when he's, many games when he was managing Averley, and he was to come over to Harlow, and you'd see him losing the plot because the fans would get on top of him, all the rest of it. But off the pitch, he was probably one of the nicest guys you're ever likely to meet, and still is one of the nicest guys you'll ever like. Yeah. Always got time for you, all the rest. And Craig Edwards is just an absolute legend. Do you know what I mean? He's probably not many. But the one that I always like, and the one I've got a soft spot, is Mark Morsley. Mm-hmm. And he's somebody that I think speaks very well. Somebody that's always got time for you as well whenever you go up and talk to him. And even when we were losing 2-0 at half time against Needham Market in the year that the 100-point season, he came off the pitch, and I spoke to him and said, how well the team had played at up to half time. And he stood there for a couple of minutes before he went in the dressing room and had a chat. Do you know what I mean? Before he went in there. Now, he's in a match where he could win or lose the league almost. Do you know what I mean? But he's still got time to stand there for 2 minutes and just talk to you before he goes into the dressing room. Just a really all-round nice guy. But what are you expecting from the new season? Or are you just sort of just waiting like the rest of us with bated breath to see what we won't get told what the budget is, but but are you sort of looking forward to the new season, with anticipation about, if we're going to be going for it, not going for it, if Mark's going to be in charge, Mark's not going to be in charge. I mean, you excited as most of the people and just waiting for that news to drop?
Yeah, I mean, I think with everything that's happened this year, I don't really care what we've got as long as we've got football. To be honest with you. I mean, we've seen the best of Harlow, we've seen the worst of Harlow, and we're stuck by them. So whatever happens, we'll be there. But yeah, I'd like a settled team, our own team. There's just so many changes. And, fans can't sort of, get to know the players because they coming and going. Just to get that settled team and have them for the whole season and work with them. For me, that's what I'd like to see.
And are you two what's the one I'm looking at, lovers of loan players coming in, or from what you're saying, are you more happy that if they were our players rather than from somewhere else?
I think everybody would like our own players and not have to rely on any loans. And people say to me, I hate loans because they can be taken back like that. Well, all of our players are we haven't got contracted players. They can go when they like. They're exactly the same. We could have a player one day, he could be gone the next. None of them are on a contract to do what they like.
They do just come and go. Don't
they? They do come and go.
They can sit on a bench for a couple of games and then you never see them again. They never come back.
So basically, it's the same. You get a loan player in. People saying, they're not our players and their clubs can take them back any minute. Well, our players can go any minute. So it doesn't make much difference. I mean, the thing is, I don't think you can have, what's the word I'm looking for? There's no consistency if you have the loan players. You need to know. The Southend players, I saw somebody saying, oh, it's not too bad if we have them for 3 or 4 months. Well, we did.
Yeah. We
did have that deal with Southend until Sol Campbell came in and decided to play the youngsters, and of course they had to go.
Yeah.
Simple as that. But if that older manager had stayed, I don't know who was managing them at the time, Matty Rush probably would have done the whole season with us. So would have Miles and people like that. So it's a real difficult. But I mean, when we had Matt and things, we were winning. We were, top of the league at one time. I mean, I know he'd gone by then, but those first few games that he played and scored, we were scoring, we were winning, and then he's gone. So obviously the players that we were left with weren't that good enough, really. Not saying all of them weren't, but, there was some weaker players who had to step in and take these players' places.
And an unsettled team week in, week out, just chopping and changing all the time.
The last question.
So I'm getting with it, to be honest.
So one of the things for me then, what about has there been the time when you have received a 7-dayer for somebody, and have you looked at that and gone, oh no, not him? Has there been somebody that's really sort of been heartbreaking when you've seen a 7-dayer come in for a certain player that that you really like?
Yeah.
Elaborate on that.
He's looking at me as if he wants more.
I'm just curious. I mean, was that Mario possibly or not?
No. We did have one for Husey before before we went to Aveley, and that was like, ooh, but he decided to stay with us. But some of them we've had 7-day approaches, and I think thank God for that. Can't wait.
And people would now say to me, ask who that is, but I won't. But but listen, I mean, are you enjoying it though? That's the one thing. I mean, are you enjoying your new role in the club? And is Ian sort of enjoying you being out of the house even more than before?
Well, not really.
You haven't really started it yet, have you?
No, I haven't really started, but I was doing a lot of the secretarial stuff anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, just waiting for everything to start. It's getting really frustrating now. Just want to get back and, I don't know.
But is that frustrating? But is that frustrating for you when you see other teams already back training because you just want to get there and be in there and amongst it as, as the secretary that you are, you want to get in there and be amongst it again? Does that sort of almost get you excited when you see other teams going back? Do you just want to get back so that you can get started?
Yeah, of course it is. I'd love to see players signed and I'd love to see them back training. But everything's a little bit up in the air at the moment. I know our ladies and reserves have gone back, but obviously, you know, we just got to wait and see, really. But we always get there.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no panic.
No. Well, listen, let me put you out of your pains, right? Let's just say the time's run through. So I've been so grateful for you guys coming on today. Really have. Really enjoyed the last hour chatting with you, and do wish you guys all the very, very best. Keep well. Hopefully see you in the flesh very soon. And you know, let's hope that when you do get started in your, well, not new role, but more sort of expanded role, hopefully everything goes 100% well for you, and you get flying. You start getting those players signed on the dotted line, and they're all big players that get you excited. You never know, Mario might come back.
Thanks, David.
No worries. Thanks, mate.